The law of contribution. Growing yourself enables you to grow others. If you're not doing anything with your life, it doesn't matter how long it is. I thought that was brutal.
That sounds like a Winston Churchill.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I guess he got to the point on that one. Adding value to others means I must grow first. And then Ben Franklin did say that I would rather have it said that he lived usefully as opposed to dying rich. And I would say that's true.
Yeah.
He was very useful, and he might have been rich too. So he might have had the best of both worlds. But okay, there we go. All right. So personal growth for contribution means good modeling. And this is where I really wanted to focus a lot on this conversation was this means you had to have some good teaching and good training in your life to even understand what modeling is. Good parents, good mentors, people that were lifted the lid way above you, you could follow and learn from, so you could become a good model. And I know you'll have a lot to say about that in a minute. What if you lack modeling, Danny? In your notes underneath that, put that little question to come back. So what happens? What does a person look like that lacks modeling, right? Okay, and then reservoir versus river. John Maxwell in his book says that he'd rather be a flowing river than a reserve. And the point behind that is that you can get all the self-help and modeling and everything you want. If that tank just keeps getting filled but never gets flowing, it's just sitting there being stagnant, right? Filling up. I thought that was a weird analogy, but there you go. Yeah. All right, couple more. Who mentors you? These are some questions that I think we'll address. This will take up the conversation. Who mentors you and offers baseline wisdom in your life? And notice that they want to know who mentors you. In other words, it's important. Who mentors you to be a better person? Who challenges you to think? Who helps check in with your dream? Your accountability calls and stuff we could talk about. Who cares enough to rebuke? Ooh. Yeah, you said yesterday on a quote at church that the pastor was no longer preaching, he was meddling. Is that what you meant?
Yes.
Okay.
Brian would, let me tell you, we will, I'll come back to that later. Go ahead.
Okay. So just want to let you know I'm paying attention to what you post. Okay. So when merciful when you fail. I think those are all important things. And then let's talk a little bit, Danny. I'm filling your plate up here, but let's talk a little bit about the difference between being selfish and self-centered. Because the old axiom is that a lot of people, and this is just Hurdie reversing this process, think that if you're always giving to people, then you're proving that you're self-centered. But when in fact you could be not filling your tank or having your flowing river filled, so you can help others, right? You're becoming a people pleaser as opposed to understanding how to take care of yourself first. So that's my notes on the law of contribution. I think that's enough gold nuggets to get you started.
Yeah, this. By the way, I think that first week of January, we just need to start these 15 laws all over again, do them again. I've been through this book 17, 18 times in the 8 years it's come out, and every time I go through it, I mean, you and I went through it. Was it a year ago?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, every time we go through it, it's I pick up new stuff.
I think what we could do is I'll offer out a poll, and then based on what questions we get, maybe we can address a combination of questions in a final podcast on this. To recap. So I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah. Right up front, you mentioned grow yourself to grow others. I'm gonna be a little cynical here.
Okay.
But when I meet another coach, start having a conversation with them, learning about them, I want to know what books they're read recently, their favorite books, and I am shocked how many don't read. They'll listen to some of the latest podcasts, and they're up on the current events. And anyway, it was good to find this reference in here, because I had this discussion a few weeks ago with somebody that's come back up once. Adding values others you need to grow first, you said.
Yes.
And some of that was part of yours. Good modeling. Now you mentioned lack modeling. What did you say that? I want to be sure.
Well, my point is that if we're not going, if we don't have mentors and people that have been modeling to us to show us what proper behaviors are and how we're supposed to treat others, then more than likely you're going to have to learn that lesson the hard way somewhere down the road, right? But if you're not, if you can't have repetition learning, discovery, and all that about what true modeling looks like, then you're not going to have any way of knowing how to grow yourself or help others. That's the point.
Yeah, and back in the very beginning, I think it's law 4 or 5, whatever the law of wouldn't it the law of modeling in here.
Yep.
And a lot of people don't have good mentors, good models. And you got to remember, go back to the earlier lessons in here, modeling isn't comparing.
Right.
All right. And we should not compare ourselves, but we should find people to model. And I mean, some of my best mentors have been, I've never met them. They haven't been alive since while I've been alive. It's through books.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked about this in the past, and I've learned a lot from those guys. And reading their books, not just listening to them, but reading their books. Contemplating what they're saying, what they've said, how they live their lives. Um, um, Myself and another guy right now are talking a lot about, and he's 15 years younger than me, but he's talking that he brought up the question a few months ago about finishing well, and I'm real concerned about it, because most men don't finish well. Historically, we just don't, and I've got some thoughts about that. So really, I've been reading more and more about men that did finish well, such. So what you said, you mentioned what I said about that Brian Henson, my pastor. I posted yesterday. He's gone from he's doing it again. He's gone from preaching to meddling,
right?
And and he's just talking about what the Bible says. He's not throwing any you shouldas and you couldas and you better do this. This is what Scripture says, and it has to do with he's doing a 12-week series on worldview and what worldview means. Anyway, another subject. Totally. Yeah, I love what John says in here about being a river and not a reservoir. Oh yeah, here's what you were saying. Most people who do make personal growth part of their lives do it to add value to themselves.
Right.
They are like reservoirs that continually take in water, but only to fill themselves up.
Correct.
Wow. Yeah, that's most people who think of yourself as a reservoir instead of a river instead of a reservoir. And I think he's saying, because most people who do make personal growth a part of their lives do it to add value to themselves. They are like reservoirs that continually take in water. I journal every morning to dump my reservoir. And what I mean by that is that I get things stuck in my head, and the creative journaling that I do helps me. If I think about my brain, the subconsciousness of my brain being my hard drive, but my consciousness being my RAM.
Yep.
All these thoughts that are in my head, I journal to get rid of that stuff, and so I can dig deeper. We get so wrapped up in our performance, and I think that's a little bit what John is saying right there. That that too many people use personal growth to increase their performance, and not the performance of other people. And the more I tap into my potential, the more I can help other people grow.
Right.
Um,
And I would say that has a stage, right? That maybe when you first start your real personal growth, something happens in life that gets you thinking about the right things and you want to change. So maybe you do start by just tapping into the reservoir, right? To take care of yourself. But eventually you discover
yeah,
that you can tap back into the people and folks around you or the world around you, right?
that's really good. I like that. That you're going to have to tap into your reservoir from time to time, no doubt. You just can't live in it. And
Right.
these questions, you read out some of them a few minutes ago.
Yep.
Under being a river, not a reservoir. Who mentors you? Who offers a baseline of wisdom? Who mentors you to aspire to be a better person? Who challenges you to think? Who cheers on your dreams? Who cares enough to rebuke you? Who is merciful when you have failed? Who shares the load in pressurized moments without being asked? Who brings fun and laughter in your life? Who gives you perspective when you become dispirited? Who inspires you to seek faithfully after God, and who loves you unconditionally? That's some. Those are great questions to just to ask yourself on a regular basis.
Yeah, I would think that those questions kind of step outside yourself a little bit, right? That I don't know where we we've learned this, but one of the things I discovered in my business, very few people take time to seek outside help or or research or try to figure out how they can be helped, right? They just get stuck in I can do it myself. I can do everything myself, right? And that's a hard habit to break, by the way. If you're somebody that's always been self-sufficient, you're always doing things yourself. I went through that,
Yeah. Oh
you
yeah.
know. So
Yeah.
so
I mean, I have a coach. I meet with him every other Tuesday morning,
right.
and um, um, I need that coach, and it helps me. And really, he's not training me. He's just helping me dig out my creativity, my awareness. A couple of weeks ago, I sent him some stuff out, or he has this book, and I asked him to read the Law of Awareness. I was really trying to dig some of that, in there, or I was trying to dig that out of there. And I've something I've been chasing for a while. Anyway, I'll come back to that in a minute. But
Hey
John
Tom,
said,
hey Tom Britton just said great insights. He's listening on LinkedIn. Just wanted to acknowledge him. So
hey Tom,
there you go.
yep, the Tom was great during my hospital after Tom called me almost every Friday and did check in. That was great.
Yep.
Uh, John doesn't know who he heard this from, but there is no success without sacrifice. If we succeed without sacrifice, then it's because someone who went before us made the sacrifice.
Lost you. You're back. You're fine. You're fine.
Sorry about that.
Hey,
Uh,
he's live. It's okay, ladies and gentlemen.
if you sacrifice and don't see success, then someone who follows will reap success from your sacrifice. But think about that. If you sacrifice and don't see success, then someone who follows will reap success from your sacrifice.
Yeah.
Right
What?
on.
So an example from a country standpoint is those who went before us
Yeah.
and died serving this country and
Yeah.
sacrificed for our freedom.
Nine
And
11. Yeah.
yeah, that we're in today is a
Yeah.
great thought. Those people sacrificed so we could have freedom. Um, and and when we start defining success, Danny, as sowing and not reaping, don't you think that changes the whole mentality of how we think? Remember, we go back to remember um, books we've read done together on how we think and how we process stuff, it would seem like to me that once we realize our place. Now, that doesn't mean we don't take care of ourselves. Everybody gets really confused, you know. I mean, you still got to do the self-care,
Yep.
but your thinking is, I'm now sowing instead of worrying about reaping everything.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah. Well, you just hit on something that we don't have time to go into now, but something I'm really flushing out, and that's to be sure that I'm not just dealing with self-care, which is sometimes is so wrapped up in self-improvement that I
yeah.
forget about my soul care.
Uh, are you getting ready to confuse me with three new things I got to
Yeah.
go through?
Yeah. Well, I remember about 12 years ago, after, gosh, 15 years ago, after, I'm in the mortgage business, or have been, kind of semi-retired, or it has semi-retired me. But when after 2008 things were going on, I don't remember who it was, but somebody told me to protect my heart.
Yeah.
And then over the years, that's become this aspect of soul care before self improvement. Now, I haven't got the self care, self improvement quite flushed out there, but here's something on page 251. This is one of my favorite authors that John Maxwell quotes. Richard
Okay.
Foster. Richard Foster writes, and now this is he's talking about the law of contribution. He's talking about making the right contribution choices, and you've seen my 10 choices
Yep.
list. But he says, be grateful, and about making a choice there, putting people first. Don't let stuff own you. And then he quotes Richard Foster. Owning things is an obsession in our culture. If we own it, we feel it will give us more pleasure. The idea is an illusion. And, as you know, and I know you've downsized a lot, I've downsized twice in the last 12 years.
And guarding our heart, he can listen in, is real important to uh, part of our soul growth. And he's trying to figure out his phone, which we kind of figured is going to happen today, but that's the way it goes. So with that said, let me do this. We put a lot of good information out for you guys today. Danny, if you can hear me, you can put a thumbs up if you can hear me. Uh, we'll end the broadcast here in a minute and go from there. But guys, we just finished the law of contribution. It's the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth by John C. Maxwell. I encourage you to buy the book, put it on your nightstand, journal it. It's deep. We've barely touched the surface of everything we've gone through, but I highly recommend that if you get a chance, make sure you pay attention. If you want to go back and look at these 14 past weeks, then you can go to my YouTube channel, which is right here. And we'll be back with another book probably after January. A lot of y'all know that I have a major type surgery coming up in a couple of weeks, and we'll be out of pocket for about 30 days. So check it out. There's the YouTube channel. Thanks for putting up with the in and out, but that's okay. We got a lot of good information out to you guys. Have a great day.